blue sky, blue water. And between, a magical market where you might literally stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone on Earth. There is no other place like it. A smash-up of time-tested structures juxtaposed high on a hill. Before it, lovely Puget Sound. Beyond it, glittery glass and restless renewal. But this place is different. It knows who it is and what it was, how it feels to be rejected, blindsided, and betrayed. This is a market with a ferocious love story, a twisty-turny romance with the citizens of Seattle. A romance that would have ended 50 years ago, but for a small band of admirers who passionately loved her and fought to save her. Every day, Seattle's Pike Place Market opens its eyes,
lean to the left,
stretches its back, and prepares for the busyness to come.
There's a certain heartbeat that the market has every day.
This early hour, its only chance for reflection.
I meditate because I'm concentrating on my hands.
Before it all changes. On this day, the market will fill many roles. Artist.
It's all hand cut and hand stitched, and it's just to make your home a little happier.
I print t-shirts with bleach and coffee mixed together.
So I bought this lovely kind of dawn shot. You can see the Space Needle there and downtown.
Merchant.
6 sprinkles and 6 cinnamon, please.
Yeah, everything we sell here, I grow myself.
Entertainer.
These artisanal bubbles are handcrafted by me.
History teacher.
That's my dad. Like maybe from the 50s, and this is probably the 40s.
This is actually part of the Alaskan Way Viaduct. When it was coming down, then we cut and polished it, and had all these beautiful agates and jaspers in there.
Provider.
We've got 200 crafters, 100 farmers, 450 residents, 5 social services, and we make sure that the market keeps running and keeps thriving.
Family.
I had several of my customers come to my wedding.
Some of the people down here used to work for my dad when they were kids. The farmers, I know all their grandparents because, so it's like, oh, you're related to so-and-so.
My parents sold art here in the market when I was in utero. They sold hand-carved mirrors, and I was kind of at the booth.
Community.
Certainly a neighborhood, and that's why we believe that people really find themselves here. They love being here.
It's a kaleidoscope of humanity, where borders blend.
It's like bohemian. It's really colorful. It's got a lot of people, a lot of different looking people.
And time bends.
I just feel like we're back in the old days, the 60s, the 70s, the way it used to be.
What would Seattle be without its messy, quirky, lovable market?
It's such a fun place to go. It makes me just smile.
Pike Place Market, absolutely cultural phenomenon here, an institution. Couldn't imagine Seattle without it.
What would Seattle be without the market? It would be less. It would have, its heart would be gone, I think.
Yet it almost happened 50 years ago, when the power brokers of Seattle plotted its demise.
Coming in with a bulldozer and tearing down everything that is here and putting up big buildings.
Instead of the market so beloved today, the city nearly wound up with this. Cement and steel wiping out an authentic, and incomparable piece of Seattle's history. Pike Place Market was created in 1907 to empower farmers to sell directly to customers to end price gouging by commission houses. After onions soared from 10 cents a pound to $1, Councilman Thomas Revelle introduced an ordinance dedicating Pike Place to the public, asserting, "The market is yours. It is for you to protect, defend, and uphold." The people answered the call. Author Alice Charette says Pike Place Public Market rapidly became the soul of the city.
It was the social place to be in Seattle on Saturday, was Market Day. You wore your best bonnet, you brought your kids, you met your friends.
Seattle was in love with Pike Place, and it would flourish into the 20s and 30s, even weathering the Depression. But love is not easy, and the market would see that love threatened again and again. It happened in 1941, when bombs dropped 2,600 miles away over Pearl Harbor had an unexpected impact here.
There was a fire set by an arsonist a few days after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The sanitary market just down, well, what had been the sanitary market down here was burned to the ground.
All persons of Japanese descent were required to register.
Then, President Roosevelt ordered the incarceration of Japanese Americans.
What happened the day after the Japanese were taken away and what it looked like at the market, it was totally empty. Empty stalls, and it was very sad.
By 1943, the market was a shell of its former self. Of more than 500 farmers once selling here, only a third remained.
It's haunting. Would the farmers come back? Then many Japanese Americans did not return.
By the war's end, everything was changing. City residents were fleeing to the suburbs and shopping at grocery stores, opting for frozen over fresh. Pike Place cast aside like an aging lover.
The market was pretty run down back then. You know, there were a lot of empty businesses. It was not kept up very well.
The market was declining just as a wave of progress was sweeping America. Seattle built its Space Needle, hosted the World's Fair, and cringed over its embarrassingly shabby urban center. But a promising solution just might be arising. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, was dangling millions in urban renewal money to cities willing to raze and rebuild. Market lovers feared it could spell doom for historic Pike Place.
This is a common phenomenon all across the country of urban renewal blight. They had declared it to be a blighted area.
People don't remember now, but urban renewal was the thing. You got in, came in and tore everything up and built it fresh.
In 1963, a powerful group of businessmen known as the Central Association of Seattle unveiled a comprehensive plan for downtown, which included replacing the market with a sprawling plaza sporting apartment towers, soaring office buildings, and a major hotel. It was quickly adopted by the city council.
The wrecking ball was close by. The idea was to tear down the market and build a tall parking structure and put the market into the some concrete stalls at the top of the building.
The market as we know it today would be gone.
We would see a massive parking garage structure. All of the small businesses would be gone. There wouldn't be any more. There would most likely be national franchises. The corner market would be gone. The LaSalle low-income senior housing would not exist. The main arcade here would have been taken out, of course. The funky, chaotic kind of mess that you see here, everything would be gone.
Peter Steinbrook has been coming to the market since he was a boy. His father, Victor, a University of Washington professor of architecture, loved the place and its people.
And he developed friendships with the fishmongers, with the flower growers, with the vegetable growers. And that was where he frequented as a child, just like I did.
Victor fiercely opposed the redevelopment plan.
He knew it was a disaster. And it wasn't just a disaster because the buildings would all be torn down. A way of life would be snuffed out, destroyed.
In September 1964, Victor rallied a ragtag group of market admirers here at Lowell's to mount a resistance. They called themselves Friends of the Market. They could never have fathomed the monumental battle that would span 7 years, or the toll it would take on Victor.
Well, it was difficult for me as a child seeing how he was scorned and berated and mocked and made fun of. Even the University of Washington wanted to strip him of his tenure at one point, under pressure from some of the regents and influential leaders.
The market's story is not a simple one, and it would only grow muddier and more convoluted.
We'll try to shed some light on the confusing question of who, in fact, is trying to save the market.
Seattle became increasingly confident it would secure tens of millions in HUD money for its Pike Plaza redevelopment project.
The entire power structure of the city, the city council, the mayor, the Downtown Seattle Association, were all working for this urban renewal.
But Victor and the friends were relentless, their passion contagious. By 1966, returning shoppers were pushing the market's annual sales to $10 million. Drawing on that popularity, Friends of the Market mounted a petition campaign aimed at stopping the urban development juggernaut.
53,000 signatures were collected over a period of, I would say, 2 or 3 years. A lot of hard work collecting those signatures. They were delivered to City Hall, taped together down First Avenue, all the way to City Hall to send a message.
53,000 people, some 15% of Seattle's eligible voters, had signed the petition. But most importantly, would the city even listen?
Victor sponsored many marches on City Hall. There were many hearings, and the rooms were always packed.
The petition failed. In the words of Victor Steinbrook, it was politely accepted and unanimously ignored. Instead, in August 1969, the City Council voted to move forward, promising the developers would relocate a small corner market, 1.7 acres, amidst the plaza's 23-acre concrete jungle and 6,000-car garage. A promise the Friends dismissed as insincere and unrealistic.
It would be pretty outrageous to have a 30-story, 35-story hotel within a very short distance of the low-scaled market buildings, and instead of it phasing in gently and gracefully into the city scene and into the market, it will be an island, skyscraper, high-rise island.
I really wouldn't call this a compromise, and these aren't the type of uses that we have now. And these wouldn't be the people that would buy produce.
In May 1971, HUD approved the long-awaited funding. Time was running out. So once again, the Friends went to the people, launching a drive to put a citizens' initiative on the ballot to force the city to preserve Pike Place Market.
We went out and got signatures, everyone we could find. We just went door to door and got people to sign. There was no other way to do it.
In just 3 weeks, they had more than enough signatures. The city now had no choice. Initiative 1 would go on the ballot. Voters would decide the market's fate on November 2nd, 1971.
6 days from now, Seattle voters will pass judgment on Initiative Number 1, which could well determine the future of one of the city's best-known landmarks.
If approved, Initiative 1 would create a 7-acre unique historic district and establish a commission to preserve and restore the market's buildings and its continuance of uses. A no vote would bring in the wrecking ball. The power imbalance was staggering. The friends who wanted to keep the market faced a behemoth of investor money and city influence backing the Central Association's plan to raze and rebuild.
On the one side was the mayor, the city council, the 2 city newspapers, and the Chamber of Commerce. It was a who's who of Seattle. On the other side was this ragtag group of university professors, a few artists, and a lot of people who had shopped and loved the market.
Each group, moreover, claims that the methods endorsed by its opponents will not really save the market, but will instead destroy it. Who, in fact, is trying to save the market?
And adding to the confusion, shortly before the election, out of the blue, a mysterious group emerged, calling itself the Committee to Save the Market, with a slick, well-financed campaign.
The committee launched a $65,000 campaign to defeat the Friends Initiative. Needless to say, that kind of money is not being put up by fruit peddlers and fishmongers.
Committee to Save the Market claimed to represent the market's merchants and farmers, but when pressed, adamantly refused to reveal a single donor. But the committee's message was clear: vote no on Initiative 1, because the only way to save the market is to raze it and rebuild it using urban renewal money. It was all getting so confusing.
I don't know what to say. Maybe it's all right, maybe not, I don't know.
I don't know what happened.
I've been confused myself for quite a while with all the talk that's going on in the market.
Well, I'm a little bit indifferent. I don't know which way to go.
I was really confused.
The committee's message was having an impact, but at the 11th hour, thanks to a new state law, voters learned the truth. The Committee to Save the Market was nothing more than a front for the Central Association of Seattle and the wealthy investors intent on knocking down the historic market.
It was a ruse. It was trickery and deceit. Their intent was actually to advance the massive mega development urban renewal plan that would not have saved the market in any true sense of the word. So it was outright deceit.
With so many mixed messages, election night was tense.
I was there as the official, unofficial photographer, age 13, with my black and white 35 millimeter camera, capturing the moments, seeing my dad's expression of joy when the numbers came.
It was a landslide victory for the Friends. Some 53,000 people voted to demolish the market, but over 76,000 voted to restore it, preserving it for future generations.
That dollar bill, that's the first dollar bill raised for the Legal Defense Fund to save the Pike Market.
The dollar bill is hanging in the market shop, still being run today by Victor Steinbrook's oldest son, Matt.
It means that people can stand up against big business, big government, and win.
The 1971 vote was a vote of love, but the buildings were in terrible shape. The urban renewal money still desperately needed.
Yeah, no, and this was part of the genius of the initiative. It didn't call for the urban renewal project to be stopped because everyone realized that we liked the urban renewal money.
But all figures point to shortages.
Market supporters turned to the state's powerful U.S. Senator Warren Magnuson for help. Could he find a way to let Seattle collect the $50 million, but use it differently?
We were able, through our political connections and efforts, to transfer that money to the historic district to be applied for rehabilitation and restoration.
No other city had done it. Seattle was making history.
The Pike Place Market is probably the best example in the country of an urban renewal project that resulted in the restoration of important assets as opposed to their demolition and replacement.
The Pike Place Market Preservation and Development Authority, PDA, was formed to rehabilitate and run the market on behalf of the public, guided by a revolutionary charter.
The charter was the miracle, and it was a miracle because it not only thought about the structure and the businesses that they intentionally wanted to keep, but protecting the small business owners. In one stroke of a pen in that charter, they preserved 400 units of low-income housing, which is really amazing.
The protections in that charter would prove vital moving forward because the market's priceless real estate will always make it a target. And just such a threat arrived in the late 80s, when New York investors, who'd been buying up historic tax credits, moved to take over Pike Place, bring in upscale stores, raise rents, and force out low-income vendors and residents.
They were called thugs, the urban group, yes. Yeah, by us. They didn't call themselves that, I don't think.
Why'd you call them thugs?
Because they were coming in to take our market away and to, make it into a Disneyland. We didn't like that.
It looks like the fight between East Coast investors and the Pike Place Market is going to wind up in court.
That prediction today from the man heading the Citizens Alliance to save the market.
I went ballistic over this.
By this time, Victor Steinbrook had died. It was his son Peter's turn to continue the love story.
The market belongs to the citizens of Seattle who saved it before and who will save it again.
I was serving on the Market Historical Commission at the time, and I was not going to let them, get away with this attempt to take over the market.
It took 2 years and more than a dozen lawyers, but Peter Steinbrook and many of the same friends who'd stepped up in 1971 sent the urban group packing.
I owe them a debt of gratitude, as does everybody who works here, because this place is a treasure, is a jewel, and a feather in the cap of Seattle. It's the heartbeat of the city, this little 2 square or 1 square mile plot.
Again and again, the people of Seattle have demonstrated their deep love for their public market, approving millions of building upgrades in 2008 and later expansions. And in early 2020, the people would step up again after the arrival of the global pandemic.
Before COVID, everything is okay. But when the COVID comes, everything down,
Yeah, the pandemic hit really hard. We lost our income completely, so we didn't pay our rent for 2 months.
Most of the market was shuttered. But behind the scenes,
all right, I'm walking.
2 women were moving quickly to address the crisis.
Good morning. How are you? I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
What you got there?
I got a white nectarine.
Mary Baccarella runs the PDA, but is known as Queen of the Market for her almost daily check-ins.
How's your day going so far?
Lillian Sherman runs the Pike Place Market Foundation.
Here's my girl.
Together, their organizations tapped reserves and raised millions in donations to provide rent relief and grants to merchants, farmers, craftspeople, and artists, and emergency funding to the market's food bank, daycare, and senior center. It's not lost on anyone that this crisis is happening 50 years after the historic vote that saved Pike Place Market.
Now more than ever, we need to celebrate the 50th anniversary. They saved the market then, and it is not lost on us that during COVID, we needed to do the same thing. Just like the Friends did with all of the community, we do it with all the community.
Pike Place Market is envied the world over.
I've learned actually fairly recently that we were an international inspiration for markets all over the country and all over the world because, as you can imagine, we were not the only market that was being threatened by urban renewal at the time. So the market in Barcelona, which maybe you've been to, that's there in part because the Pike Place Market was saved.
Most who come to experience its magic have no idea it was nearly torn down 50 years ago, or realize just how much the market still needs us.
Without this public space, this public melting pot here, I think that it's easy to fall even further apart and to have even less empathy for one another, because I think at the end of the day, Pike Place was saved by people who loved it, and there needs to be that love that helps usher it into the next step, the next generation.
We inspire people every day to love the market more, and part of the celebration of the 50 years is to re-inspire the people that have moved here to love the market as much as the people who saved it.
I plan on working as long as I can down here, and then hopefully somebody will take my place down the road, and I'll mentor them, and the great cycle will continue.
The vibrant market we see today is over a century in the making. It's made of love stories like Don Cazzaro's.
Okay, folks, anything else for you?
Don was just a teen when his father and uncle stood with Victor Steinbrook and the friends to Buck City Hall 50 years ago, ensuring a priceless legacy passed to the next generation.
I've always enjoyed working down here. My wife was a daughter of a market farmer that we met down here, so we had a real market romance. It was both in our blood.
It's made up of love stories like Noah Perriot's, whose own romance echoes that of his parents.
My wife and I met here at the market. We were the first people to get married here on the bridge, which was pretty magical. Now we have 2 kids, and we're raising our boys on art.
It's made of love stories like the Sabondos, silversmiths who discovered a supportive community of artists and customers they never thought possible.
When we started, I said I'd always be brave to work here. So gratitude.
Pike Place Market will always tug on our heartstrings.
It comes deep from the heart when you're in a community for so long and people care about you and you care about them. And that is the essence of the Pike Place Market. It's the heart of Seattle.
There will be more threats to come. Keeping the love story alive is up to us and all who follow. Because saving Pike Place Market will always be a labor of love.